Hey guys, how's it going? Gerard Lowell here. Today I'd like to go over a video of me playing Caitlyn, in which I'm going to go over what my thought process is throughout the game and what I decide to do. Decision making is a crucial part of winning games, and I figured I would use this game that I played yesterday as an example because it's a fairly clean game. Very few mistakes were made. So yeah, I'll start from the beginning. As you're loading into the game, it's always important to take into consideration the opponents. You want to know what can kill you, what your early game is going to be like, the things you need to look out for. So, for example, I realize the enemy team has a Leona and a Lucian, both very high DPS champions, especially in the early game. So anytime you go beyond, I'd say about this point in the map, you really have to worry about a gank, because even in the 2v2, Leona and Lucian can typically beat Thresh Caitlyn. So at this point in the game, the call was made to invade the red buff. Olaf wants to cheese out the Nidalee, take her buff early on, and try and snowball off of that. So you'll see around 1 minute we decide to recall, as we've noticed that there's nobody in the top lane, so there's no potential to get a pick, get a kill early on.
Minions have spawned.
So at this point, I've decided to take Warlord's Bloodlust, as I know that if I'm able to farm out the lane, I should be able to carry out late game. So as we're moving to lane, we know that Olaf is starting topside, so we don't have to leech to the buff. At the same time, it's always a decent idea to either harass the early leash if you don't have to help your jungler at red, or let the minions shove onto you. If you do let the minions shove onto you, potentially you can make it so that they miss experience from 1 or 2 creeps, but that doesn't happen here as they give a very small leash. So at this point, I figured it's good to shove because we know that Nidalee started bot side as they came to lane a little bit late with a little bit less mana. Right now I'm shoving to try and get level 2. You get level 2 off of the first 9 creeps. That's the first wave and then the first 3 melees. So you'll see here I killed a couple range creeps, so I get level 2 slightly afterwards. We see an opportunity to go in as they're both level 1 and we're both level 2, so we get some good harass off. Force the summoner out of Leona and out of Lucian. And that's the power of early level 2. You can really influence the lane that way. Now we see the Nidalee gank. This doesn't have much potential of killing us, and because we realize that, we see that we can turn. We get some good damage off, and at this point I realize Thresh is probably dead, so I'm just looking for the trade kill onto Leona. We get it, which is pretty nice considering they ganked us, so a 1-for-1 is not a bad end result. So now I know that Nidalee is low, which means I can push the lane with impunity and harass Lucian. So at this point, I'm really just looking to get last hits, get enough gold for my BF sword, because that's typically the first time you want to base is once you have that 1300 gold as Caitlyn. Now Nidalee decides to pay a repeat gank. She hits the spear, but she's out of range to pounce, and Thresh hits a hook. I throw down a couple of traps to try and get as much DPS as possible, and Olaf's here at an excellent time. So we're able to turn around and kill Leona again, as well as Nidalee. And this just goes to show how much wave management early on can affect the lane. Because the lane wasn't pushed early by us, we could keep the lane in the middle of the wave in the middle of the lane, which allowed us to pull off successful counter ganks and defend ourselves against the early Nidalee pressure. Now here we see it's a 1v3. We know both the support and the jungler are dead. I realize I have a red buff, so I flash auto attack because I know his flash is down. Get the slow off, we get another kill. And at this point, they're in pretty bad shape. We're up about 2,000 gold, and it's only 4 minutes and 40 seconds into the game. Olaf pings out that he wants to continue to take the tower, so that's the call. We have 3 people pushing in a decent-sized wave as well as a red buff, so this should be easy pickings. In the current meta, you really want to take towers as quickly as possible. It used to be true that if you had an advantage, you might want to keep it by allowing the laning phase to last longer, but right now it's really important, especially with champions like Caitlyn, to get that early tower, get that global gold for your team that you get from the early tower, recall, and then start pressuring another lane. So I'm going to fast forward through the recall. So at this point, the call is to go top lane because we've taken the bot lane tower, so there's no real objective. If we go down here to try and farm and pressure this tower, we're overextended. Nidalee can gank us, so we realize, okay, next move is to try and go top and take this tower to get some more gold for our team. Looks like Galio narrowly escapes a gank, and Nidalee's able to, Akali's able to turn it around. Gets the flash out of Nidalee and Talia. Now, I'm slightly underleveled because Olaf was sharing so much experience when we took that tower, but I'm able to catch up in levels with Gnar, and at this point we can actually start to look for trades because we don't have to worry about him turning around and 2v1ing. We saw Nidalee mid as well, so we can actually look to pressure this a little bit. Thresh barely misses the hook. It's okay though. Our main focus right now is to push down this tower so we can continue growing our goal lead and getting pressure on the map. Now, at this point, I see Olaf pinging. It's pretty obvious that he wants to dive, and Gnar's Mega is running out. So we look for the all-in. Olaf tanks, Thresh tanks a couple autos, which is good. It wasn't very difficult to split the aggro of the tower. We're able to kill him, and this is really Olaf doing an excellent job of knowing where and when to pressure the map. If that hook lands, she's just dead. Now, at this point, Thresh is pretty dead. All I can do is look to get as much damage off as I can, which I do. I get a decent amount of damage off on both Talia and Nidalee, essentially taking them out of the fight, which allows us to continue pressuring top. So Thresh dying here, it's bad because they get gold for it, but at the same time it's not terrible because we maintain our pressure on the map. We're able to continue pressuring this top tower. Leona goes in on us. Not the best decision. She ends up taking about 3/4 of her life bar as a result. We're able to continue pressuring down the tower, and we finally take it, giving 160 gold to each of us. So at this point, we're about 5,000 gold in the lead. And on a champion who's very weak early on, such as Akali and Caitlyn, this usually spells victory. Even after 8 minutes, you can essentially consider yourself won. I see the red buff's up. I decide to take it. We also realize that Nidalee is doing her Krugs off of this ward, and she's pretty low. Galio goes in, gets the knockup off, and I get on a killing spree. At the same time, Akali gets a kill by diving Lucian. Ooh, so Galio almost stops the base of Talia, which would have resulted in another kill, but it wouldn't have meant very much considering our next objective is to take this tower and it's at essentially full health. So here I have to be a little bit careful because we don't have any vision bot side. So my job is to try and take pot shots at the enemy champions while not getting aggro because of my red buff. Although I do have red buff, so I can do extra damage to the towers. So I really needed to make every single auto attack count. I see I get a headshot, so I just have to go in a little bit. Thresh lands a hook, I get a nice trap down. CC Gnar. They all in me, and I'm just dead here. It was a nice wombo combo by Ilona. I should have taken consideration her CC a little bit more. But Olaf's there to clean up the fight. He gets a nice few kills. Thresh lands another hook. And that results in Leona dying.
Blue team double kill.
And spamming the mastery emote. Akali's continuing to maintain pressure top, which is very important for us because it allows us to dive Nidalee. Without this pressure top, Talia might have been able to rotate and get a couple kills. We managed to take the tower, and after this, I start pinging the next obvious objective, which is the Rift Herald. Rift Herald is heavily impactful at the moment. It essentially can be considered the equivalent of a tower's worth of gold, as if used correctly, that's typically the amount of pressure that you gain by taking it. Up to 1 tower, potentially 2, depending on how big of a lead you have. My teammates don't want to do it. They decided to base. It seems as though they have a considerable amount of money, and I respect the call and go back to mid to continue wave clearing. But yeah, at this point in the game, and at every point in the game, really, you should always be taking into consideration what's the next move to get yourself to the point where you need to win. So a lot of people have the mindset, I need to kill the enemy opponent over and over again, and if I'm able to do that, that'll result in the victory. What a lot of people don't fail to realize until they get to slightly higher levels of play is that the best way to achieve victory is by taking those neutral and neutral objectives as well as towers. Ultimately, the point of the game is to destroy the enemy nexus, and the best way to do that is essentially to take things that you know will help snowball the victory, such as the neutral objectives, Dragon, Rift Herald, getting Vision. Thresh goes in for a hook. Not very likely to land. Even if it does, we can't really follow up on it. And at this point, I'd really like to take the Rift Herald. I know if we can take it, it'll really open up the map for us. It's fairly difficult to siege into a Talia, Lucian, Gnar. All these champions are pretty good at wave clearing, so we know we need the backup of the Herald. Galio shoves in the wave, so they don't have much of a chance of contesting it, although it seems as though Leona knows what's up. Gnar comes over and drops a ward. I drop a trap trying to catch Leona as I saw her on this. But this is pretty uncontestable Rift Herald. We get the buff, and Galio actually manages to land a 3-man stun, which spells go time. The fight commences. Galio also gets an excellent 3-man knockup. At this point, I'm just trying to get as many auto attacks off as possible. And because we just took the Rift Herald, we're able to take a lot more off of the map than we were if we hadn't. So, this tower should go down fairly quickly, despite the fact that it's at full health. Rift Herald does a very large portion of the health bar right there. I realize, okay, we could continue to pressure this, but the next move is probably to rotate and try and take bot tower. They have their entire team up, and they were all there. They were probably looking for a fight, and they were just able to base, or not base, die, but when you die, you can buy items, and they were up by a decent amount in terms of items on us. A lot of us are sitting on a lot of cash, so it wouldn't be the best idea to take a fight here. I take a few too many tower shots, that's really bad, but at this point we're far enough ahead that we're able to take the fight regardless. Thresh gets a nice hook, and we can take out Leona early on. Akali can kill Talia, or at least take her completely out of the fight, and I'm just looking for auto attacks. I know they have no hard CC at this point, so I can really walk up close to the tower and take auto attacks, and they do manage to kill her. Now, I realize most of their members are low. We can probably get some damage, if not completely take this tower. And we do. Now, you can see my items. At this point, I'm really just going for the standard Caitlyn build, which is you get an early BF sword, then you start stacking attack speed. If you can, you get that Infinity Edge, but if you don't have enough gold for it, you usually spec into something that builds out of Zeal, like a Static Shiv, which in this case I get. Fast forward a little bit. Now, as you can tell, we've taken almost all of the outer turrets and both of the neutral objectives. Baron isn't going to be up for another 5 minutes, so we can't really look to take that, which means that the next objective is likely this top tower, as it's the last outer turret and the easiest to siege. They have the least opportunity to flank us if we try and take this tower. So I get mid shoving, which makes them have to deal with these minions before they can really do anything. Akali gets a really nice pick on Lucian bot, which makes it so that she can not only pressure bot wave, but also has the ability to teleport into a fight if we were to start one. And that pick right there is very pivotal in us being able to apply more pressure to this top tower. Olaf runs into Leona, and this is just a kill, right? She's dead or has to blow summoners. She does end up blowing a summoners, and Olaf is still able to run her down. Thresh gets the flash hook flay, and she gets away. At this point, my job is really to just shove in the wave, though, because although these kills are nice, we're so far ahead in gold, 10,000 gold, that it really doesn't matter if we get a few more kills here and there. What we're trying to do is take towers. Minor team fight ensues. They know that we have 2 people bot, so they try and all-in us 4v3. It ends up not working out too well for them. We're able to kite out most of their damage and continue to pressure. Now I get hit by a spear here. I realize Nidalee has kill pressure, so I get myself as much distance between her and myself as possible. We end up taking the tower, and all the while our teammates were taking the bot lane inhibitor, so it really sets us up for the next shove. Now, at this point, I would say I make a bit of an error. We really should just go back, buy whatever items we can with the gold that we've just got, because I'm very low on health, very low on mana, so there's really not very much we can do here. I get a few autos off on the tower, get it about 50% health, but damage on the inner turrets really doesn't matter that much considering they regen. Olaf's able to take mids out this whole time. It seems as though they're just as fixated as I am top. Gets himself out. I realize there's not much more we can do top, so I decide to recall. I'll fast forward a little bit. The next objective is Dragon. It's an Infernal Drake, so it's really important that we get it. Extra ability power and AD is very helpful on our team. Olaf's able to solo it. I take the red buff, gives us more pushing power, more damage on towers. And now we know that the next objective is to take this inhibitor, because if you can take 2 inhibitors, Baron, which spawns in 2 minutes, is essentially free. Yeah, so we group up mid. Akali's going top to get the wave shoving, although she doesn't necessarily need to be here because the wave's already shoving. There's more minions for us and for them. But yeah, they're too scared to walk up and do anything because we're so far ahead. Now I back off here because it looks like they're going to engage, and getting a couple shots in the inhibitor would be nice, but it's more important to kill them. And that's a 4 for none, which allows us to end the game. So the reason I picked this game was because of the rotations that we had. I think it was such an effective and quick game because of our map movement. We realized after taking bot tower at such an early point in the game, we had a considerable lead and we could just go top and continue to pressure. And that's really what winning games at the highest level is all about, is getting a lead. And when you hear people say snowballing, that's what this means, right? You go around, you take the next tower, you get yourself even more gold, you cut off their area of comfort in the jungle, in their own lanes, you take inner turrets, you take neutral objectives, and off of that, you can win games by seemingly doing nothing. There were only a few points in that game where I actually had to fight, and because of that, it was such a simple win. So yeah, I hope this video helps out people who are trying to get better, trying to get to that next level. working the map, knowing about neutral objectives, knowing the importance of them, and realizing that the best way to win the game isn't by trying to get kills over and over again. It's by working the map and choking out your teammate from resources, or your opponents from resources and objectives is the quickest way to victory, 9 times out of 10. But thank you for watching, and I'll try and upload a few more in the future. Please give me any feedback that you might have.